And joining us, we have St. Augustine MP and UNC Shadow Minister of Local Government, Ms. Khadija Ameen. A pleasant good evening to you, Ms. Ameen.
Good evening to you, Mikee, and of course to all your listeners, and a special good evening to the listeners from St. Augustine constituency who are tuned in this evening.
Wonderful. Now, of course, on Monday, it was all about the Property Tax Amendment Bill 2024, and there were other people who had to make their contribution. Unfortunately, I know you were prepared and you didn't have a chance to do so, but give us an idea of what angle, especially when it comes from the perspective of local government.
Certainly, one of the major things that this government has been saying is that the property tax will go to local government bodies to improve roads and drains and parks and local infrastructure. And that has been a source of contention because there is no doubt that the PNM has undermined local government and local government funding. And maybe that is part of their strategy to prove to the population that we need property tax. What we have seen over the years is a steady decline in funding to regional corporations, to the extent where in many cases they barely get money to pay salaries and they don't have material to do road patching, to do construction and other things. So who feels it? It is the citizen. When you cannot get your garbage collected in a timely manner, you can't get potholes patched and so on, you tend to feel, boy, this government right, it's better we really agree to pay property tax. And there are people who have said that, listen, I want my roads maintained, therefore I will pay property tax. But you know what we have seen is the devil is always in the details. Because while the government has been saying that the tax will go to the regional corporations, will be collected by the regional corporations, the corporations have not been equipped with a department to collect that money. Previously, I remember when Hazel Manning was doing a local government reform exercise, and remember that Manning government had the intention of bringing property tax back then. In each regional corporation, they started a unit that would have the database for all the properties within the region, and the intention was for that unit to collect the tax. That has not been happening in regional corporations. There's no sign of anything towards property tax and property tax collection. So it is gimmick. It is really.
Yeah, but Ms. Ameen, I think you hit a nail on the head when you started off, because the perception is that this money is going to do good for the community where you live. I mean, garbage collection, people want their garbage to be collected. They want their playgrounds, their recreational grounds to be well groomed, well taken care of. But there's this, this perception that that's what it's all about. But there's so many discrepancies and so many people making comments from the government as if to simply use it as a political tool to gain political traction. The Prime Minister said that nobody likes to pay tax, but taxes are an essential part of management of public business, stating that governing the country was not magic. He said, if all the revenue streams dried up, what would you pay the bills with? And that in itself is so disingenuous, because have we heard about any direct foreign investment plan? Have we heard of anything now, especially in post-COVID, where the economy is going? So the belief is that this money is definitely needed to manage the affairs of the people and take us down that road where people expect so much from something that is causing so much chaos.
Let me tell you, Keith Rowley should be the last one to talk about revenue streams drying up, because he is the major cause of that issue in Trinidad and Tobago. This reminds me, when you have sometimes you see properties in the community and a family migrate and they leave a relative who is a piper, and he sell out everything bit by bit. He start to sell out the plants in the yard, he sell the appliances, then he start to take out the fittings, he take out the kitchen sink and all these things. That is what they have been doing. They sell Petrotrin. A lot of the items that would have been revenue generating in Trinidad and Tobago, you get rid of them for quick cash. And now that it means your revenue stream has dried up, now you want to reach to tax the population. And I remember just about a week ago, the Prime Minister, in one of his conversations in a panyard somewhere, said that if the government does not collect property tax, you might have to go to the IMF. That is to tell you the dire straits they have brought this country in. Now, what I can tell you, I'll use some examples in St. Augustine constituency. We have farmers who are on agricultural land who have not been able to get their leases renewed for those lands since the PNM came into government. They also will be required to pay property tax. We have squatters who have been begging for regularization. Imbert made it clear that all squatters have to pay property tax, but that does not entitle them to the land on which they are staying. We have situations in Oropun Gardens, for example. The people who are relocated from the airport and put in the first part of Oropun Gardens, the housing development there, they are still yet to get their deeds. And I have been going to HDC, they don't have their records, and they're now trying, we are helping to get their database going, but they also will have to pay property tax. So we are in a situation where people who don't even have security of tenure for agricultural land, for HDC houses and so on, and squatting and so on, we will still have to pay this dreaded property tax. But of course the question is management. Rowley said he is correct. Taxes has to do with the management of the country, and that management is something that the PNM has been showing their total incompetence with. Under the UNC government led by Kamla Prasad Bisesa, you had regional corporations who were well equipped and well funded. There was no excess of funding, It is that we were managing the funding properly and working in tandem with central government. So we got more projects done and we were more effective in local government without a single new tax. We have a situation where they have been claiming that they are going to do local government reform. Local government reform starts since 2015 when they came into government. They campaigned on that. When they in 2020, once again they campaigned, but there does only study local government when it have a local government election coming up. And it is the same thing. So they promised that you will have this grand transformation funded by property tax for the local government reform to work. What happened? They only declared that one section to extend the term of local government from 3 years to 4 years because they wanted to postpone the local government election. There are so many other areas that can be proclaimed bit by bit. So, for example, recently you had the very controversial Salary Review Commission recommending that the Prime Minister get $80,000 more in his salary. Mind you, councillors also fall in this category of persons under Salary Review Commission. You know what they get? $1,100 increase. Right now, councillors' stipend is about $4,500 per month. That is their stipend. And there are provisions in that Municipal Corporations Act for the Minister of Finance to determine the terms and conditions, the salaries of councillors. Why don't they, if you so disagree with the recommendations of the Salary Review Commission, proclaim that section of the Local Government Act, and then you can decide to give councillors remuneration suited to the duties that they are doing. No, they have not done that. But if it was to fix themselves, I suspect they would have done so. And I call on the PNM local government representatives to clamor within your party for Imbert and Rowley, who are getting their exorbitant salaries, to ensure that councillors are getting more than $1,100. Stop using the excuse about property tax and these things to postpone, giving local government the right.
I think you're right on that, because the Prime Minister described the property tax as reasonable, and he accused the UNC of wasting parliamentary time and abusing the intelligence of the people. Now, when you talk about abusing the intelligence, we had Robin Montano here last week, and he made it quite clear that he got 2 notices of payment for this property tax. One in his name and one in someone else's name for the same residence where he lives. And he's been living there for quite some years. Someone by the name of Wendy. Now, what he was asked to pay is much higher than what Wendy has to pay. And then you have senior citizens on fixed incomes who are asking, how is this thing being calculated? I mean, how are they coming up with this amount of money? So at the end of the day, whose intelligence is really being tested here and definitely being abused?
Well, you know, one of the things that they tend to do is to...
Now, see if we can get her back. We can take a short and see if we can get her back.
Oh gosh, this place hot, and the AC in this car not working. It's like a driving a damn sauna.
Check Ryanair. Ryanair is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in...
All right, we're back. Thank you so much, Master Control. Go right ahead.
One of the things that we have noticed is that the PNM continues to accuse the opposition of doing exactly what they are doing. And that is a classic propaganda mechanism used by, Nazi kind of strategists. And that is a serious thing, I say, because if you study history of politics and so on, you will observe that some of their strategies were really strategies used by dictatorial governments. And they demonize those who speak out against them and try to turn the population against them. In other countries, they would jail them, if they get the chance. And what we have in this scenario is when the opposition warned the country about the danger of this property tax regime, they call us, they say we are alarmists, they say we're making commerce, we're making bacchanal, causing problems, we are unpatriotic. They love to call us unpatriotic. But had the UNC not warned the population, many people would not have opened their eyes. And now that we are seeing this situation come to pass, where they have no tribunal set up for people to make objections, people are getting letters in their mail. We had several cases where husband and wife in the same house, I have one in my constituency, husband and wife in the same house, both get letters for the same property with different values. How does that happen? You have a number below telling you to make an objection. You go and you make an objection at the Board of Inland Revenue on a photocopied form, but there is no tribunal for that to go to because the president has not appointed a tribunal. You do not have the mechanisms in place to administrate the tax. And we have been warning against the method used to calculate being the rental value, the annual rental value of a property. And so said, so done. We told you so. The opposition, it has been the constant voice, and Kamala Prasad-Bissessar has been the #1 spokesperson telling the government to stop the tax. And it is the role of the opposition to bring light to these things in the country. And of course the government would not like it. Of course Keith Rowley would not like it because they would like to pull wool over the country's eyes. And this is what we have been seeing. So I want to warn the population, when you see the government attacking and condemning somebody, it doesn't only have to be a UNC, but anybody who speaks out against what they are doing, they tend to call them unpatriotic and demonize them publicly. And that is when your red flag must go up. And you must pay attention, because had this person not been speaking with merit, they would not attack them.
Yeah, and not only that, Ms. Ameen, the fact that they pick and choose what they want to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, the Prime Minister slammed the opposition, which he said was trying to tell the population that the Minister of Finance was given instructions to the professional staff in the valuation division. Now, this gets interesting. Rowley said the right hand did not know what the left hand was doing, and the brown bottle don't know what the white bottle is drinking. Now, he also quoted a remark by the chairman of the Kuba Tabaki Talpa Regional Corporation, Ryan Rampersad, who was on this program last night, clearing the air on something that he was asked by the media. Here it is, Dr. Rowley is now quoting, so while they're in here making noise about property tax, one of their senior functionaries have a problem with the government reducing it. But Mr. Rampersad has cleared that. that. And this back and forth and this one trying to use it as a political football, at the end of the day, you as an MP, any average citizen, I am certain that you are always bombarded with people coming to your office. They need help to send their children to school. They need help to put food on the table. They want opportunities. And none of this is working out in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The bottom line, whether there's discrepancies, whether people just came outside your gate and added it up, whether they never came at all, people don't have the money to pay. They don't. They simply don't.
And that has been the cry throughout the country, where even people who are saying they are willing to subject themselves to this tax, they also cannot afford. On top of that, you have the unfairness of the situation and the uncertainty surrounding it. You had, during COVID, we had something called curbside delivery. You have curbside assessment. Saddam Hussein used that term in his in his contribution in Parliament, speaking on property tax. And they come by the roadside, they look at your house, and they determine a value. You know, so there's so much uncertainty with this thing. But I think it's important for us to continue to scrutinize how the government not only intends to collect tax, but what they tell us that they plan to utilize the taxes for. When taxes are collected and it goes to the consolidated fund, with a promise that a portion of it will go to the local government bodies, let me tell you what they have done. In the last budget, you have the financials coming to the Parliament, what we call the yellow books. This is really the breakdown of where the money is going by line items. And under each regional corporation, they created a new line item for property tax. And they put a figure there. So most regional corporations, the average was 10 million. That is what they said the regional corporation will get from property tax. But what they also did is that if the corporation accustomed receiving, let's just say 70 million, I'm using an arbitrary figure, you're accustomed getting $70 million to run all your business. When they put the allocation of 10 million for property tax there, you get 60 million from government subvention and the 10 million, and when you add it up on the books, it equals to the 70 million. So you will figure that the corporation, okay, we get the same amount as in previous years. But the truth is that where you have any hiccups happening with that 10 million allocation, it's not coming from elsewhere. So what Ryan Rampersad and others would be concerned about is that I budgeted for $70 million. Now that I am getting less because you failed in your promise, how am I to treat with my burgesses who are shortchanged? So it is, again, it is a gimmick where they say that the $10 million from property tax will go to the regional corporations. The $10 million, all the money is collected from property tax is going to the consolidated fund. And the government now has a promise to then take at their discretion some to put towards the regional corporations, and they will put in other places. So regional corporations are not collecting property tax, as the minister continues to say. What happens now is that regional corporations have all been shortchanged because of this planned reduction, yes, but what happens is that they were not going to get any of the money in the first place. What you're getting is a shortage, and they have been shortchanging and undermining local government constantly. And it is really time for them to stop, because local government is the first thing as you step out your house, on the pavement, your garbage collection, the potholes, the park down the road. When we talk about young people who we want to get them engaged in sports and constructive programs instead of going and getting involved in crime, what is the state of our recreation facilities? Can we really have proper training programs and engage our youths in positive activities in the community? Can our municipal police officers patrol those facilities, patrol our schools, keep our children safer, keep our market? I mean, you just have shooting in the market, you had a murder in the market in Shogunas. You know, and this is what local government has to be empowered to do, and they are promising these things, But the reality is, when you look at the books, the devil is in the details.
And you're right. And the perception is that this was going to be some great social euphoria, that, you know, everything, every ill, every problem that we'd have in our community was going to be addressed, it was going to be rectified. But Chairman Rampersad is correct, because you have economist Marlene Add saying that government reducing the tax rate, it means less money will be collected and allocated to the corporations. So how is government going to deal with this shortfall? I mean, we were told that this is going to be the best thing, added on with, of course, during the local government elections. We heard so much about this local government reform, the best thing since sliced bread. But in all reality, Ms. Ameen, where are we at this point?
Well, I will tell you that to begin with, you have, as I said, the curbside valuations. We have persons who are trained as valuators, who are not qualified. They were trained as to do assessments. They are called assessors. Well, they train up, they call a few of them, they design a 6-month course and send them to do the course. The qualifications of the persons doing the assessment is also under question. Then you have the issue of multiple persons in one house getting letters of different values for the same property. You have the issue of pensioners or elderly persons or disabled persons who are being told you can ask for a deferral, and every 2 years you have to come back and prove your case. But the moment you die and you have to pass that property on to someone, they have to pay all the taxes that you owed. And that is what the opposition leader termed the inheritance tax. And again, they were calling us liars. They were saying that they don't have an inheritance tax, that we are inventing and making up things. But as you can clearly see, any person who is to inherit your property would have to pay the taxes if you take a deferral.
Yeah.
So a old feeble person will have to go every 2 years to prove to the government that they did a deferral. You also have no mechanism set up to collect property tax in a proper manner. You have no tribunal at all for making an objection, but they are sending you a letter telling you that if you have a problem, file an objection. Yeah. And Crowley is telling us, comply and then complain. When you speak about taxes and you tell people, pay your money now, we go sort you out after. What happens to that same Board of Inland Revenue who are collecting VAT from business people, collecting other taxes from population, but when it's time for your refund, you have to wait for years, no interest. So, but the population, we must pay you immediately, but you must keep what you have for us for years upon years with no notice. I remember Keith Rowley talking about his back pay once and saying he don't like his money to sleep out. He don't like his money to sleep outside. Why must you insist that people pay in a system where you have all these discrepancies and they have no guarantee of getting a refund?
Yeah, and I think bottom line, according to the opposition leader, the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, in her contribution to this property tax amendment bill, said, we are totally against the property tax because it is an unfair tax. It will cause more hardship on the population. We do not support, whether it is 0, 2%, 3%, any percent, the whole Property Tax Act must go. And we say no to it. And I think that's the bottom line. And she made it quite clear to repeal it and remove this wicked property tax once and for all. Repeal your tyrant property tax and call the elections now. So,
Mikey K, the property tax was the downfall of the Manning administration, and it is very likely that it will be the downfall of Keith Rowley administration. But it's not only the property tax, it's the arrogance coming from the government. They have raised gas prices so many times and we have not rioted yet. They have brought so many restrictions on us and we have not rioted yet. They have brought property tax, and I want to warn the population, do not feel relieved because the government has had to suspend the collection or postpone the collection of property tax. The moment the PNM gets back in government is property tax in waste. So we have an opportunity to send a strong message because we know what is coming. There's no guessing. It is not that the opposition is making unfounded allegations. You have seen it for yourself. And when it comes a time to vote, people have to be serious. You don't have to like UNC or PNM or any party. Vote for yourself. Vote for what is in the best interest of you and your children. Vote for better schools, for better hospitals, for better roads. When you could go to the hospital and get medication, when your children can go in school and be safe, where there is no shooting on the road, where your children would not collect a stray bullet in the recreation ground. Vote for those things. Vote for your children to get laptops in schools. Those are the things we have to vote for. So if you are so adverse to political party and political involvement, now that is not a problem. Vote for what is best for you. And there's no doubt that the Kamla Prasad Bisesa-led government had better hospitals, better facilities for children in terms of education. We were leading in the Caribbean from tertiary education to secondary education and skills training. And skills training that feeds into sustainable jobs. You have a nurses training school because you want your hospitals to have better nurses, and you have almost a guarantee of a job. So whatever industry drives our economy, you have trained people who will be getting a job, a proper job, a sustainable job, a permanent job. And of course, that builds our economy. So that is what you have to vote for.
Well said. Thank you so much for taking time out to link with us here this evening. Best of luck to you and your entire team, and we will be checking in with you periodically. Take care.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.